Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze the main tactical themes in Arsenal's 3-0 win over Bodo Glimt. So in today's video, first we're going to look at Arsenal's pressing, then we'll briefly touch on Kieran Tierney's impact, and lastly we'll focus on how Bodo Glimt improved in the second half. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, we have Bodo Glimt in a 4-3-3 that shifted into a 4-5-1 out of possession, and Arsenal in their traditional shape, but they made 8 changes to their starting lineup. What we end up seeing here is that the away side did drop off into a 4-5-1, and for the most part, Arsenal did shift into a 3-2-5, with Tierney drifting in towards that midfield zone, and Gabriel shifting across to form the 3. From there, you'd see Martinelli and Marquinhos hugging the touchline, and then Xhaka and Fabio Vieira pushing higher up the pitch to occupy the space ahead of the fullbacks and the center backs. At times, Arsenal could look like a 3-1-6 if Martinelli tucked into a central position and Xhaka dropped off a bit deeper, with Tierney hugging the touchline down that left side. However, it was mostly a 3-2-5 with Tierney drifting in towards those central areas in the halfway circle looking to get on the ball and creating an avenue for Martinelli to receive the ball on the touchline by dragging that narrow midfield bank of 5 in towards those central areas. Ultimately, the roles of the Arsenal attacking players didn't change. Marquinhos and Martinelli were hugging the touchline, but Marquinhos in particular struggled to have an impact in this game. You had Xhaka pushing forward into that gap between the fullback and the center back, and he was looking to make forward runs in towards the half space, and Nketiah was dropping off deeper and doing a very good job of linking play and holding up play when he moved in towards those deeper central areas. And then Fabio Vieira was also occupying the center back and the fullback, but there were also times where he dropped off deeper to check into the ball into the gap between Pellegrino and the left central midfielder, or at times he'd look to get on the outside of Pellegrino, whereas Tomiyasu was adopting a narrow position in that right back role. However, the key to Arsenal's success in that opening half was their pressing, and what we ended up seeing was that they had Nketiah step towards the center back, they had Martinelli looking to block off the passing lane in towards Samsted and closing down the other center back, and then from there they were able to go 3v3 in that midfield zone. Fabio Vieira would sit on Berg, and then you would have Xhaka and Lokonga closing down the two shuttlers. Given Arsenal's situation down the left-hand side, if Martinelli was bypassed, Tierney would have to push forward to step towards Samsted, or you'd have to end up seeing Martinelli dropping off deeper to recover. For the most part, it was Tierney pushing forward to close down the fullback, and then that would pull out Gabriel to deal with Mugisha. Therefore, on the opposite flank, you ended up witnessing Marquinhos closing down the left back, Tomiyasu pushing higher towards Pellegrino, and then Lokonga would deal with the spare man in the midfield zone and track him in towards Bodo Glimt's half. On several occasions in that opening half, you witness Arsenal forcing the center backs and the fullbacks into defensive mistakes. Ultimately, the center backs and the fullbacks never looked comfortable on the ball when Arsenal squeezed with this press, and to no surprise, from this pressing scheme, we ended up witnessing Arsenal win the ball in Bodo Glimt's third. Fabio Vieira was able to carry it freely in towards their penalty area, and he should have scored from this position, but he ended up forcing the goalkeeper into a save, but that ultimately resulted in the corner kick that led to Arsenal's second goal. The other key factor to Arsenal's success in that opening half was the positioning of Tierney. Like we said, he was drifting in towards that central area to form a midfield 2 as Arsenal shifted to a 3-2-5, and from there he would pull Mugisha narrow, and that would create the passing lane for Martinelli. But Tierney's more impactful role in this game was when he was picking up positions on the touchline. You witnessed Martinelli shifting in towards central areas and occupying Samsted and the center back, and at times you'd end up seeing Xhaka pushing forward into that role as well. The issue that Bodo Glimt encountered was that Mugisha wasn't tracking the movement of Tierney, so Tierney was capable of making free runs down that left channel position, and then he was able to get on the ball to deliver crosses into the box or make late runs in towards the penalty area to get himself into advanced positions. In this example, you witness Gabriel stepping forward and focus on the positioning of Xhaka and Martinelli occupying the center back. Gabriel can now find a gap in between the midfielder and the wide player for Tierney, making a free run down the left channel, and from here he now has space to pick out the runs of Martinelli or Nketiah. He takes time to deliver the cross into the penalty area, but from here you're expecting him to hit one of the markers. However, he clips a looping ball towards the back post for Fabio Vieira, who has time to bring down the ball, but from this position he looks to side foot an effort on goal that ends up being cleared. In the build-up to Arsenal's opener, it's Fabio Vieira breaking in transition beyond Berg and focus on the positioning of Tierney. Fabio Vieira is looking to play the ball in towards Martinelli, but from here you could already see Tierney making a run beyond his marker. When Martinelli receives the ball, what he does well here is that he drags the fullback towards him, and as Tierney continues his free run down that left channel, Martinelli looks to use his good ball retention to take it across the fullback, carry the ball in towards the central area, and from here you could see that he now takes 3 Bodo Glimt players out of position, and now you have Tierney continuing his run down the left channel. From here you could see a challenge being made, but Martinelli uses his strength to hold off that challenge, and now you could see Tierney calling for the ball as he breaks towards the penalty area. Martinelli plays the pass, and Tierney receives the ball in this position where he has time to pick out a marker, but there are no runs towards him, so he looks to fire an effort on goal that ends up hitting the post and falling into the path of Nketiah, who reacts to the ball first ahead of the center back, and from here he's able to tap it in from point blank range. The other key factor here for Tierney was that when he received that ball in that area, he had enough time before Mugisha was stepping in towards him to play positive passes in towards the half space for Xhaka to place him in legitimate goal scoring positions where he could have a shot on goal. However, the issue that Arsenal encountered is that when Tierney played Xhaka into the half space in the final third, he failed to combine successfully with his teammates, and those opportunities were often wasted. Whereas in the second half, while Arsenal's dominance did decrease, Tierney ended up making key impactful decisions in the defensive end where he's capable of stopping Mugisha and Pellegrino from getting into legitimate goal scoring positions by making key tackles and blocks to halt Bodo Glimt's attacks in Arsenal's third. Therefore, when you look to the second half, the issue that Arsenal encountered was that they switched their pressing scheme, and rather than having Martinelli helping Nketiah press, now they had Fabio Vieira stepping forward. The issue that they had here was that Fabio Vieira was doing a very poor job of blocking off the passing lane into Berg when he did look to close down the center back, and from here there were 2 situations that occurred. One was the fact that the center back could play the ball across Fabio Vieira for Berg, and then that would pull out Xhaka to step towards him, and then that would leave Xhaka's man free to receive the ball in that midfield area. And then the other issue that could occur was that the center back would bypass Fabio Vieira, carry the ball in towards Arsenal's half, drag out Xhaka or Lokonga, and then that would leave Xhaka or Lokonga's man free in the midfield zone to carry the ball into the final third. This occurred on a few occasions in that second half, and that ultimately resulted in Bodo Glimt's best chances in that period. They were easily pulling Fabio Vieira towards the ball and bypassing him, and then he would need one of his teammates to recover, and that would leave a spare man free in that midfield area. They'd play the ball towards him, and from there Bodo Glimt could progress the play in towards Arsenal's third by carrying the ball in towards those zones. And along with Arsenal's issue with Fabio Vieira pressing the center back, the other issue that they briefly had in that midfield zone was that Xhaka and Lokonga were being bypassed by the midfield runs of their markers in towards advanced areas to get themselves into the final third. So as you can see, this was far from a perfect display, which witnessed Tierney's first half offensive productivity and Arsenal's pressing create issues in the first half, whereas the latter nearly presented Bodo Glimt a lifeline back into the game in the second half.